What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back. Another Escape from Tarkov video and another Let's Talk Tarkov. We're jumping into it today. It's been a little while since we did this. It's been a handful of weeks since the wipe has gotten underway. There has been a ton going on in the community, around the game, with the game itself. So I figured we'd jump in and just spend a few minutes chatting about some of the hot topics as well as some thoughts on patch 0.13. So without further ado, let's talk Tarkov. All right, so first things first, I hope everybody's been doing good, and a quick channel update. Probably a lot of you are fans of the channel for a couple of different series, our hardcore and our escape series. I can happily say that next week we will get started with both of those series on the channel. We got quite a bit we got quite a bit of editing done and recording, and so I feel in a good spot to get those uploaded. A couple of videos a week. We'll go back to a regular rhythm as well, trying to do our best at 5 videos a week. So we'll have something in between, some highlights from our main account or some fun stuff that we're doing or whatever the case may be as we continue to grind. So probably 1 or 2 videos this week as you're seeing this, and then we'll be jumping in next week with both of those series. So look forward to it. They've been pretty good. They've had their ups and down moments. It's been really interesting. Our solo standard, our escape series, actually was rocking and rolling pretty good. So check them out. Be sure to stay tuned. See you next week for those. All right, on to the important stuff. First main topic, patch 0.13. Opinions. How did it go? How was the update? How is Streets? Overall, now having a handful of weeks into this wipe, with Streets, being able to mess around, see a lot of the changes that have been going on, I've actually overall been happy with the direction that Escape from Tarkov is going. Interestingly enough, this patch went on to be one of the smoothest we have seen in recent memory, from actual like upload to download of the patch to like getting in the game. There were a few server issues. There were some issues with folks. Like I had some issues actually downloading it. But overall, it was pretty smooth. And there weren't major hiccups, outages, the things that we have seen in the past. So hats off to BSG for that. They certainly updated and changed a lot of things. And these are some of the hot topic items that are going on right now and have been causing like the Twitter drama and back and forth has just been insane. Some of it I think is warranted. Some of it I think is getting certainly taken out of context or like over exaggerated, and there's just been a lot. And it feels I'm going to summarize my thoughts to say I feel like a lot of people had really high expectations for this. They're like, Streets is an amazing map. I have to say that it is absolutely amazing. There's so much there, so much detail. It's such a fresh environment. It's so cool. But those expectations were so high, and some of the implementation of the things that Battlescape Games did and Escape from Tarkov has included with this wipe and with this patch have not been received really well, and I think have just absolutely derailed some folks. One of the biggest complaints is audio. Audio is scuffed. Audio is absolutely scuffed. BSG, and I might post some screenshots of this, did come out and talk about some future fixes. That is the type of communication that we absolutely need from a gaming company, especially a company like BSG, where sometimes it can feel like information is a little bottlenecked. And I recognize that they might not want to have said something as maybe as quick as they needed to, for the sole fact that they have to also receive a lot of the feedback and then take a look at the stuff. And I'm not trying to give them an excuse, because I don't think that's appropriate. But what I will say is they have seen in the past, whenever they post, hey, we're working on something, a lot of the community will take it as, well, it's coming very quickly and it's like the next thing. And then people start asking the question of when, which is all appropriate questions. It's just, I feel like you have to recognize with some of the issues, especially with audio, that might take them a little while to fix. And I want to give them the time, but I also do want to continue to see good, clear communication. I'm hoping we can see like Escape from Tarkov podcast here pretty soon, or one of their streams, just to address a few of these things and maybe talk about the roadmap a little bit. That information is super helpful, and I also think it helps the community to hear the developers recognize that there's issues and that those things have to be fixed, and they were not either implemented correctly or there was some issue with their implementations. So hats off to them. Thank you for the communication. I know they're working on it, but I hope some of those fixes do come quickly, because they're absolutely needed. The audio is terrible if you've been on really any map, but customs in dorms and like interchange is damn near unplayable. If you haven't experienced it a lot, that it's like there's no occlusion from the top to the bottom. You can hear people above you, below you, like they're right next to you. It is awful. And the game should be getting, I want to say this clearly, in my opinion, the game should be getting some of the critiques it is for that, because it's so bad and because it needs work. And again, they're working on it. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Hope it comes quickly. If they could fix that, that would be a huge quality of life change, and I think would make people enjoy it a lot better, because audio, in my opinion, and I've said this in our hardcore series and escape series, I would rather wear headphones to hear audio cues than armor if I had to pick, in all sincerity, because that information is so important to the game, especially a game that's so visually rich as Tarkov is, and there's a lot going on, and you need the audio. So if you can't trust it, that makes playing the game pretty difficult, in my opinion. So that's been a hot topic. Recoil recently has been a hot topic as well as the ammo changes. So if you're not familiar, they basically took away a lot of the top tier ammos. There's no ability to buy them from traders. You can't buy them on the flea market, so you're essentially finding them in raid or crafting them. I will tell you, I've actually been pretty happy with this change for a few main reasons. One, that I think does help to level the playing field out a little bit for the longer term. When you get folks that push their level, and I'm included in this because I'm pushing right now as hard as I can, when they push that level, I get to a certain point where it does feel like a little bit of an unfair advantage. Now, I certainly still get killed, and then my good ammo certainly goes to players that end up killing me, so credit to them. So there is some passage of that. But I do feel like if I had ready access to M62 right now, I would be running a very short selection of guns, and probably, I would say, winning a few more gunfights than I won't right now. And that's not necessarily good or bad, but it is what it is. What I don't like from this conversation is the fact that this is totally geared against the more casual players, because I don't think it is. I think it's, again, a way to level the playing field a little bit. It certainly benefits folks that have more time in the game, but I would say it benefits the folks that are starting to understand the prioritization that the hideout needs to have in your play of Escape from Tarkov. So I'm going to bring this up really quickly because I think it's important to show, and I might not be able to show it, but Workbench 3, in my opinion, is going to become the quintessential hideout upgrade. And right now you can see, I love the system, quality of life change. Battlestate Games, nice job for giving us a ability to like the things. You can craft AP 6.3, 45 AP. You've got 856A1. I obviously have some of these crafts. You have BP here. I think this is 995. PvP, which again, I would love to craft, but it's probably not worth it at this point. APSX, S190, BT here, M62, M61, excuse me, and then AP20s. If you're struggling and you're not sure what to do or where to focus, my strong recommendation is put it into the hideout. Now, granted, this takes some time. This is going to take you focusing and getting to certain places. You've got to get your traders leveled up. You've got to get them to 3, which is, mid 30s-ish, I think. Do it. And yes, that is going to hurt the casual player because it'll take them a little bit longer to get here, but do it and then spend your time crafting the top tier ammos. And I've just been rotating essentially through the top 3. I'll probably be starting to filter more BP and more M61 in my rotation here. I just I'll say this, that I like this change because I think it makes the armor more valuable in the long run, and having a meta of class 4 armor, which is really kind of what we saw last wipe with the armor changes, from removing it from the flea market, the inaccessibility of buying some of that stuff on the from the traders. That's where this is gonna sit. Now, I still think there's a ton of balancing that needs to get done. That's been my biggest complaint, is that I would love to see the ammos adjusted. I would love to see values adjusted. If they want to sit where class 4 armor is kind of like the mid tier, and that's like generally a couple of weeks or months into wipe, that's what just about everybody's running. And if you're lucky enough to have class 5 or class 6 because you found it on a raider or in a stash or whatever, or did some barters for it, cool. But I would love to see some adjustments. So I think there's more that needs to happen here. Some of the ammos are still, in my opinion, too good. Restricting their accessibility, I think, is a good change, and we'll see how it plays out. But I hope that people at least give the changes a chance, and it seems like, as the Twitter debates are going on, that is not necessarily the case. But this game, if you've had a lot of experience with it, you also know this game constantly does this. It should come to no surprise that they are drastically changing things from the perspective of at least trying to test it. Now, they're not always very clear on that. They're not always very upfront with those changes, and I think that's what hurts Battlestate games specifically. I hope they're also collecting data. I don't know. I really genuinely hope they're collecting data to then improve what essentially is going to be the full release and what this game is going to look like in the long term, because it is going to need to have some amount of balance. It is going to need to have some... balance is the best word I can think of. It needs to have balance, and some of the stuff does have to be streamlined a little bit better, and I do think there are adjustments that need to be made. I also would love to see some trader changes, especially Ragman with armor. I'd love to see some different class 4 armors come into the mix, just to give some variety that are purchasable, right? Even at level 3 and level 4. And then I think a lot of what they're doing would make a lot of sense. I would also love to see future changes, and I've talked about this before, of an additional hideout that maybe gives you access to a different level of flea market. And I think that could be one way to restrict and kind of move some of the stuff around, ammos and, you know, higher tier armor specifically, so that there's still some access to it, but it takes time. And again, that does not help the casual player. The casual player is going to have to go about getting the stuff the way that they normally would, which is finding it in raid. And a lot of the stuff is capable of being found in raid, so that is good. And you got to know how to stockpile it, or you got to be able to kill somebody that has crafted it like me, or you, and pick that stuff up. That's been a big one. I've loved to see this inclusion and updates of the gym. I think the gym is absolutely awesome. I am very hopeful that we see other uses for this space. It seems like there's going to be. They certainly have an option to continue some things. It looks like this portion of the wall might be able to be broken down right here, and we can expand this thing. I'd love to see an option to choose your workout. So right now we have the one, but I'd love to see like a treadmill in here, and maybe you can choose to just use your time to power up your endurance. Or you can use this weight system that allows you to do strength and endurance. I'd love to see some different things like that, or use the punching bag to do more endurance focused workouts. I think there's more to come from this. I love the idea of expanding the hideout and the different things that we got. This was also a great money sink. So right now I'm sitting, I just have solar power, Bitcoin farm, and Intel Center basically to upgrade and or install. And I'm at quote unquote 100% of where we're at, outside of getting all of my GPUs for my Bitcoin farm. And it's been a great money sink. And I think that's another benefit of some of the updates and adding some of the things here, especially all the stuff we saw with the gym and what it took to get there. And I would love to continue to see that, because here's the other problem, is that folks that are really good and can certainly spend some time, they get to a point where there's just not enough stuff to buy with their money, right? And obviously they're successful at grinding it, and lots of people are successful, very successful, I might add, at making money and being able to do runs and having really good success on scavs. They have to have something to put it into, and I think at least the hideout, which can give a lot of additional benefits, is a really smart place to put it and can help that mid-game feel, right? I want to continue to have to upgrade my hideout as this thing goes along and get additional benefits. So I think seeing additional modules to get put in here and not restricting it just based on items, restricting it based on time, restricting it based on when certain other things get upgraded and installed, is a great way to just continue to space this out. Because I think the struggle that Battlestate Games is trying to fulfill right now is how do they keep that kind of early mid wipe going for longer, and where do they allow people to essentially spend resources and continue to do that. And the hideout just makes a lot of sense, and we've seen a lot of events over the last 2 wipes that have done that as well, had people put stuff in and expend resources and do that, and that can feel like, again, harmful to the casual player, and sometimes it really is. But I think a lot of folks would benefit from having this money sink and having this ability to upgrade this stuff, and getting some of those additional benefits, which I think not necessarily, it should not be about leveling the playing field, because I really truly don't believe that. There's a ton of RPG elements to this game, so if you put the time in, you should be rewarded for that time. But it does have to stay somewhat neutral in some aspects, or else it will just be broken, essentially. And I think, again, continued improvement in the hideout, changes to some of the ammo, and better accessibility to, class 4 armors from Ragman, especially as you progress, would be a good way of moving that forward. And then we can talk about other things as far as continued modification of the flea market and stuff like that. So I totally took that on a tangent. I wasn't necessarily intended to go into that space, but a good discussion, and I hope to hear some of your points on a lot of those things. The last thing that I will say is there's continued to be a lot of changes in the game. Scavs have been crazy and have been kind of nerfed, and there's boss spawn changes that are going on, and there's certainly been a lot of folks that have had some struggles. I think I have every single challenge to kill the bosses still open, because I think I've seen Rashala once, maybe Sturman once at this point, and I've run a couple hundred raids at least. I'm level 39, I think. So what I would like to continue to see, and maybe a pathway forward, is continue to allow Battlestate Games to test things, to make modifications, to see what works. They've done a lot with keys, and I know that's been a big point of discussion as well. Keys like our streets keys, our one-use streets keys, which have, which is a struggle, right? I don't know if this is the way we want to handle keys for quests, because that seems really punishing. But at the same time, I kind of get, to a certain extent, I get the meaning behind it, because they want that raid to feel especially intense, and for you to get in and get out. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about cheaters, and there needs to be continued work on that. I just hope Battlestate Games gets the support to continue to test these things, continue to move towards the final version of the game, with the understanding that I think modifications across the board still need to happen. And I would love to see, and they've said this before, so I'm going to trust Nikita in this, that the quest system as it will be implemented with the full release is not what it is now. They're testing a few things like dynamic spawns for items, which is pretty cool. I like that, sort of, but that just makes like the hunt a little bit harder. I would just like to see changes to some of the quests, make them a little bit more, some of them a little bit more accessible, some of them a little bit less accessible. Things like capturing outposts, I think, are just crazy. The quest for killing scavs by the helicopter area on reserve is just, that quest is literally broken, because you can never get scavs there, and some of those other things. So I'll quit my rambling here just to say I've enjoyed patch 0.13. It's been one of the more brutal starts to Tarkov on my main account that I've had. but it's been enjoyable. I really do enjoy Streets. If we can get some fixes to the cheater situation or some improvement to that, if we can definitely get some fixes to audio, and we can work on recoil and weapon and armor balancing, I think this game can be in a really good state in a very near future if they're spending the time to do that. In addition to netcode and decent, all of the other stuff that has plagued this game, unfortunately, they need to continue to work on that stuff. I hope most people have been satisfied from a content standpoint with a new map. Obviously, there's continued expansion with Streets that's going to go on. I'm looking forward to seeing that and the bosses. So there's more content to get flowing there. But I think if we can see some of those changes, that would be fantastic. They've done some absolute right things. There have been some huge quality of life changes. The two that come to mind are scav weapons. I love that they are malfunctionable in a raid. You can get them out though and make them usable. That is just like, finally, it's like the idea came to fruition with that change. So hats off to them. And I already talked about the other one with the hideout. I love the ability to favorite some things, so it pulls it to the top, so you don't have to be searching for it. Some additional quality of life changes with that kind of stuff would be absolutely awesome. Lots of folks have talked about like a character management system with gear, stuff like that. So I hope continued improvements with the UI and all those things we can continue to see. But it's been okay. It's not been the greatest patch, in my opinion. It's not been the worst. Implementation went really smooth, and I just look forward to hopefully some upcoming patches quickly that will show off and fix some of the stuff that is currently kind of bugged and broken. And I continue to hope that they also take a look at some of the cycles of gameplay, especially with boss spawns and how that impacts it, and recognize that there are other ways besides decreasing their spawn chance to get the intended effect of people essentially farming it. And that could be changing their equipment, updating it, as things progress, making them difficult. I don't know. Lots of different ideas to float around there, but let me know. I've rambled. I've chatted. I hopefully enjoyed this one. Again, look forward to next week getting our start with our series, Hardcore and Escape series coming back. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel. Really do appreciate it. Let me know if you've liked patch 0.13, if you're even playing Escape from Tarkov right now, or if you've decided, you know what, this isn't the one for you, and maybe you're going to continue to take a break and let this thing ride out and see what happens on the next go around, which certainly is happening for some folks, and I respect that. There's other ways you can spend your time. It does not have to be here. But I hope you do give it a chance. If you are playing, give it a chance. Give it a chance to make some changes and improvements. And again, if you've been around the game long enough, they're going to keep testing stuff. So just go with the punches, and we'll see what it comes out on the end. And my hope is that we just continue to move forward to a really good game, and we get to that full release one day, whenever that ends up being. And I hope at that point we're all sitting back going, you know what? It's in a pretty good space. It's in a pretty good situation. It feels pretty good. That would be a win for all of us, obviously. And I think a lot of the stuff that's been going on drama related is related to a lot of passion around this game. And that's not a bad thing. Just maybe how we voice our opinions could be, taking a look at. But that's social media for you. So I'll cut it out here. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Help the YouTube algorithm out for me. Share this. Chat with me down in the comments below. Love to hear from you. Sorry for a little bit of hiatus on the channel, but we're back uploading and getting to it. And come check us out. We have been streaming over on Twitch on the weekends, so we'd love to see you over there as well. Links in the description, all that good stuff. I'll wrap it up. I've been Doc, Average Gamer, guys. Thanks for checking this one out. See you soon. Peace.